Hi guys, and thanks for coming. I'm John Mench with ESAB Welding and Cutting Products. Just wanted, this is kind of a new thing for me, so bear with me. I'm going to try to do the best I can here. So I'm the Central Region Sales Manager for ESAB Welding and Cutting. I basically cover North, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and I've been with ESAB probably about 11 years. I got about 18 years in the industry, going all the way back to high school, where ultimately is where I started my whole welding career. And hopefully I could start a quick little story here because I think it's pertinent. My counselor in high school called me into their office one day and she says, oh, you're here today. And I said, yeah, so what about it? And she goes, this was in Detroit, Michigan. She goes, well, you missed 65 days of school this year already. And I said, I didn't know it was that much. And she goes, well, yeah, it was. And she goes, and by the way, at this pace, you are not going to graduate. I immediately thought, oh my goodness, my dad is going to whip my butt. So she said, well, here's your only option. You can go to this vocational technical center. It's in Westland, Michigan. Go do a tour. I don't care. Go at lunch. Go do the tour. Pick a class, and you'll take it every day for 3 hours a day until you graduate. And you will graduate if you do it this way. So I go over there, drive over there, and I stop and grab lunch and really didn't think a whole lot about it. Of course, I was late. And I go through, and I'm like a mechanical type guy. I like cars, and so I'm thinking automotive is what I'm going to. So I go through there, go through carpentry, go through construction, go through culinary arts and then nursing, and then the very last one they took us to was welding. And I go in that shop, and I remember seeing all these torches and sparks, things, everything flying everywhere. It was just the coolest thing, and I'm thinking, okay, I can do that. I want to try to do this, and that's history. And my instructor's still there. His name's Nicholas Riggets, and I attribute my career to him starting it off. So that's what the kind of impression all of our educators should have on kids going forward. So there's my story. I went on after that 1.5 years as a production TIG welder at Watson Engineering. Got tired of that, decided to go get my bachelor's degree from Ferris State University. Hired on with ESAB in 2002, been there for a little over 11 years. 12 years will be June next year. So, and they moved me into Minnesota, and I've been there ever since. And got rid of my Detroit accent. I guess we have one according to Ohioans, and moved to Minnesota, lost that Detroit accent. Now I got this Minnesota accent, So I like to start this off with a few questions, and it's just something to make you think a little bit. First thing I want to ask is, who is your customer? Your students. Good answer. You're giving them an education. They're going to get out of there. They're going to go get a job, right? Any other?
Hopefully they get a job.
Hopefully. The factory or the end user, the manufacturer. Both are correct answers, right? But it's just something to think about as we're working with these kids. You know, and you got to give them that passion to want to continue to grow in the industry. So you always want to think, who is your customer? You know, if it's the student, then obviously you're tailoring your course to help that student become more successful. If it's the end user, then you're tailoring your course to help that student do what the end user needs them to do. You were talking about Streeter earlier, you know, in Vactor. So he's got a neat little program going with them. Kind of a unique story, I believe. Also, what is important to your customer? You know, what do they want to get out of it? I've got so much, I see it in the industry in the Minneapolis area. I've worked with a lot of the schools over there where the student will graduate from their course and they just went through this quick rough and tumble welding program and they're out and they're done. And nobody wants to hire them because they can't do what the end user wants them to do. They can't perform the simple task. So that's another one. Third question is, what can ESAB do to help? What I'm going to do is basically go over a setup of tools that we have equipment that we can use that I've used in my career, in my experience, that's allowed me to help an instructor get that professional training to those students. So, and all I can do is give these as tools, like a set of Craftsman wrenches. So with that, the first thing ESAB has is over 120 people throughout North America. I almost put just United States up here for like 70 technical salespeople, but I forgot we're at FabTech. This is global, right? So over 120 professional ESAB representatives throughout North America. These are technical professionals. These are CWIs. These are CWEs. These are welding engineers, mechanical engineers, application engineers. And yes, we do have some business majors that have just learned just from purely experiencing the applications with the customers. We have some tools at your fingertips, and I'm just going to kind of buzz through those as I go. One is I've got a data source jump drive, like a little USB stick that we hand out to customers and to schools. We have our territory sales reps, our inside sales reps. We have application engineers. We have a product information line, a 1-800 number. And we also have our website. So we have plenty of tools that are out there. We have a parameter app for your smartphone. Set up your solid wire or flux core parameters. You could literally be in the booth with the student, and the student asking you, well, where do I set this thing? Usually the right question is, well, where do you think you should set it, right? But then if you need to give them some guidance, you can open up this app and buzz through there, get a setting for them. A lot of us know it by heart, but there's a lot of new instructors out there too. We also have a solid wire solution, or a slide guide for solid and flux cord wire. And they're two different, just like the old slide deals that you've seen out there everywhere. This is what I like to call, that I keep in my car, I keep in my office, and I give to every one of my customers and every one of my instructors and professors that are out in my areas, our filler metal data book, which if we scan your badge at the booth, we can get one sent to you. This book has anything and everything you need to know about our products, part numbers, applications, parameters, so on and so forth. Of course, then we have our welder guidebook. This is a neat little guidebook. Gets more detailed about more in the specifics of setting up the operator. So beyond that, we have some equipment solutions that I've used out in the field with some high schools here and there, some smaller tech colleges of that type of nature, where we have all these equipment solutions. First of all, what we like to do is kind of categorize our equipment based upon price and functionality. And you can see as you get more function, of course, you're going to get more price or higher price. So, but what we're doing is we're playing mostly in this area with a lot of those students, and then we get, of course, more advanced than probably 15% of the market type thing. The first machine is a Warrior 500i. Unsurpassed arc stability, basically just from the low end all the way to the high end. Easy setup and changeover between 5 processes. Excellent performance on all of those processes. It's lightweight, I say, lightweight for 500 amps at 90 pounds, IP23 rated, and upgraded internal components, basically for our power source longevity. So welcome to our Warrior. This is our newest machine that we'll basically just bring to the battlefield. And I'll just buzz through it quickly. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. You guys could come to the showroom. There's some key things in here that I'd like you to maybe think about as ways to help you. Very easy panel to operate. It's not busy. You got, 1, 2, 3, 4 knobs. They're all color-coded. They're all symbols. There's a little close-up of it. You have if you're just running stick, you're going to have your main adjustment for amperage. You have your arc force and inductance adjustments. The biggest one is the process selection. If I want to do stick, I turn it to stick. There's no other switches and buttons to flip. I turn it to stick, and I hook up my stick lead. The machine will automatically cross out these numbers for volts here, And then it'll just show an adjustment for amps. So the student knows exactly where to go for their settings. So they don't waste time messing around with a machine trying to figure out how to set this thing up. And I remember that in high school when they said, we had these multi-process machines. My instructor said, okay, go in there and stick weld. And I'm like, I'm looking at it, and he just thought I knew how to set it up because he did a demonstration, and I wasn't paying attention. And I go in there, and I stood around, and he comes back, and he goes, well, what the heck are you doing? I said, I don't know how to set it up. And he's like, well, you've been sitting here for 45 minutes. And I'm like, well, I've been trying to figure it out. You know, so it's really simple to use. Not only that, you may have 50 machines in the shop, and if you have 50, like 10 of one style, 10 of another, 10 of another, you're going from machine to machine to machine. Oh, how do I set this one up now? How do I get to this one? So we want to keep it simple. KISS method. So you can select when you go into the stick mode, you can select your stick electrode. What it does is the machine will actually, since it's an inverter, it'll fine-tune its arc force and its hot start to that particular stick electrode. Now you can run any electrode in any setting, and it'll run just fine. However, it runs better in the settings that we select. And since that's blue there, these are blue, which means that affects that process. And then this knob will affect that process. So pretty neat machine. Again, easy to read symbols, easy to understand. Gas tungsten arc, air carbon arc gouging, shielded metal arc welding, gas metal arc or flux cord arc welding. And then this one will run a suitcase feeder. If you need to get out 100 feet out of the shop or something, do a project that the grounds crew brings in or something. So, like I was saying, user-friendly panel. I don't need to go through too detailed on it. Here it is with the wire feeder. It's got an automatic remote switching when that feeder is attached. There's no, like I said, no remote switch, no contactor switch. Auto fan control, and it's an inverter base, so it's also good for the schools that are trying to go green, trying to save money on power consumption. This machine on three-phase will draw about 33 amps.
Does it run on one phase?
It will not run on single phase, no. We do have single phase solutions though. Good question. There's the data on the machine. We don't need to get into too much detail. Our two feeder options. So our wire feeder is actually somewhat portable. It's lightweight, simple, easy to use, digital meters for outdoor use. Wide speed range, I get up to 1,000 inches a minute on wire speed. The standard spool cover on the back is a big deal for a lot of places, especially in the school environments. You guys don't burn 60 pounds of wire in a day on a machine. So that 44 pounder that you put on that machine is going to sit there for quite a while. It may collect dust. There's a lot of different things that can occur. That thing keeps all the dirt off of it, keeps everything clean, and keeps the spool covered up from anybody touching it or playing with it. So pretty slick setup. Or you can take it off if you don't like it. So this is what the feeder looks like. Again, when I mentioned earlier, if you come to the booth, we could show you what the Warrior does. These will actually cross out when you switch to whatever process, so that the student knows, oh wait, that's crossed out, I can't adjust that. Wire feed speed, voltage, wire inch, and purge. That's it. Torch connects here. These are water connections if we have a water cooler. So, wire feed speed, voltage, little switch for purge and wire inch. Those are the only adjustments on the face of the wire feeder. Real simple. On the inside, there's a trigger latch option and a slow run-in option. We have a toolless change out for our feed rolls. If you have to go from a solid wire to a flux cord wire, it's literally 5 minutes. You're switched over. Our connections, extremely clean. We don't have 3-4 cables rolled up all over the place in the shop. We have a robust connection set with a heavy rubber liner encasing the 4-aught cable, the control cable, and the gas line. And it stays protected from maybe grinding and arcs and maybe a student dropping a hot plate on it. Then we have our suitcase feeder. That's an off-the-arc feeder, so you hook up a positive lead, drag it out with a positive lead, hook up the off-the-arc feeder, and you're welding. So it's a killer combination between those two because you can, ultimate portability at that point. We can run our flux core, gas metal arc, shielded metal arc, gas tungsten arc, air carbon arc gouging. Very, very versatile machine for basically any shop. So from there I ask myself, well, what if they need a more advanced option? I have schools that want pulse. They don't want to deal with, their customers, the end users, want pulse. So this has been a great solution for me at quite a few schools. One in particular is Western Technical College in La Crosse, Wisconsin. They've got 18 of these, and they've got 18 of our inverter style machines. So we have overall 36 machines in there that are of this variety. So what this is, it's our ESAB Arrigo and Arista welding power sources. There's 2 power sources, 3 different wire feeders to choose from. Modular design. I pick and choose what I want to put together, and I got my package. So here's what it looks like. There's a basic feeder, more advanced pulse, and really advanced pulse. Now it shows 3 power sources. This one here has been discontinued due to popularity, and this feeder's been discontinued due to popularity. Minimal. So truly a modular design. You get the power to choose what you're going to use. You can upgrade later. So if you get a basic MIG package, you can put a pulse panel in this thing 5 years down the road for a small investment of maybe $600–700, I think, list price, and you have a pulse machine. Now you don't need to go out and fork out $8,000 and chew up your budget. Basic gas metal arc pulse, gas metal arc super pulse. I'll show that to you. This is what the MA23, this is a nice thing with ESAB and how we classify our products. Basically, M stands for MIG, A stands for ARC. It's a CCCV machine. So I can stick weld and MIG weld with it. Extremely versatile. This one's real simple, wire feed and voltage. I have a stick option, and that's basically the gist of it. And then there's schedule saving where you can store a program in there. You can run through it if you really want to get down that road. Then we get to more advanced. This is our the next step up, which would be our pulse panel. This one gives us basic pulse, easy to set up. You can virtually set up a pulse schedule, and no kidding, in less than a minute. It is not difficult to use. The one thing I've always had with this, and I've got 8 of these machines in a shop in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. They have farmers that they hire to weld because that's all they can. That's their pool. That's where they can hire from. They have this one in their shop with dual feeders, and that controller looks intimidating. You look at it, it looks intimidating, although it's extremely easy to operate. So you get really advanced when you get here. This one you can start getting into cool things. Like I know a lot of the instructors that I've worked around during the summers, you're bored. So you're probably not just going to fish the whole, well, maybe you will, I don't know. But you're probably going to run out and do some consulting work, I would imagine. And sometimes that requires playing with specialty applications. I can take this, for instance, and design a waveform with that controller in my hands. I can design a waveform to take a customer, maybe, I don't know, take them out of helium mix on a stainless project and move them into a pulse application with this because I created a synergic line that works well with that wire in their application. So you can actually create that, and it is so simple to do. So, equipment to make Training easier. How about gas tungsten arc from ESAB? Kind of fell off the face of the earth over the last 4 years with this. But now our ESAB HeliArc machines are back. And the beauty of these machines is they are extremely simple to use. We polled the market. We tried to find out what customers really want. We do this thing called the voice of the customer. And they said, I want to be able to walk up to that machine. I want my operator to walk up that machine, turn the power on, adjust their amperage. If they're running aluminum, they push a button to switch to aluminum, to AC, and they maybe adjust their frequency or their balance, and they're welding. That's what I want them to do. I don't want them to play with a bunch of buttons on the front of my machine. So we answered that. This is what we've given them. And others, you know, a little smaller group, wanted pulse. So we went to added some pulse options. Very simple machine to use. It's a new inverter-based AC-DC power source family. I have a 281, 283, 353. 281 is a single-phase power source, would compete with all the, like the 250 amp class TIG machines that are out on the market. The transformer style is priced competitively enough to go up against those transformer styles. That's the beauty of this setup. You can probably buy 2 of these to every one of the big inverter guys out there. It's pretty amazing. So you can stretch your budget. Basic and advanced industrial needs, so we have a single-phase 280 and we have a 3-phase 280 and a 350. Multi-process, gas tungsten arc and shielded metal arc. Key selling points, it's cost efficient. Advanced process control, so I can get into some pulse applications. I can increase my frequency, create a tighter arc. And then same functionality across the entire range. So if you buy a low-end model and then later buy the 350 for more capacity, you get the same exact control. Yes. I don't know if I have a picture of that. The cooler would actually sit under the machine. It's integrated into the cart. Yep. And it has a really neat feature on that cooler as well, where if the person were, you know, like sitting in their bench and welding, they would actually, they move their chair and they'd set it on the torch, right? And they kink off the water cooler, right? Well, any old water cooler that you have out there, it doesn't know what's going on. They burn up the torch. Next thing you know, you got a $400 torch you need to replace. This thing has a pretty neat feature where if you kink off that water, it senses the flow is not there, and it will actually throw out this loud, annoying tone. And you go, what is that noise? And now you can still burn up the torch because they can still weld with it. But however, it makes people stop and go, whoa, what's this? And if you show it to your students beforehand, they know. So now you don't have to go out and spend $400 on a replacement torch. Or have a machine sit there idle because you don't have any more budget available to go buy the torch. So ultimately, real simple machine, excellent in the output class as far as power is concerned, 250 amps, 100%. The 350s, 280 amps, 100%. Simple, clean control panel. You've got stick. This is like a trigger lock mode because we have a button for the torch. That's an option, or that's standard, I should say. We have a spot mode, and we have all these other basic modes, I should say. Remote, high freak, start only. That thing only uses high freak on the start. It's an inverter power source. It's simulating the AC waveform with DC positive and DC negative. So I don't have a continuous HF that's creating noise in my shop and maybe burning up some of our expensive tools and phones and the like that we have in the shop.
Are those ramping symbols there in the middle of that panel?
Right here? This is a, I want to say that is a ramp down, and I believe this one's arc force, and then it has a dual function to that setting, and you start getting into pulse, you can adjust your percentage of time at background and the pulses per second when you're setting up pulse for your pulse frequency, I'm sorry, for the AC side as well as the DC. There,
Is that a ramp-up feature within that? Is that just, there's a
it's,
simple thing that's bringing it down all the time?
when you select this mode here, and you set the program here, there's an upslope and a downslope. Yes. The balance. This is probably the only balance knob I've ever seen that makes sense. When you turn it up, it's 90% negative. When you turn it down, you're going towards the positive side. So as you go down, you're getting more toward, full positive. So we all probably remember a positive, more positive on your TIG process is going to create more cleaning action, right? More negative on your process, on your gas tungsten arc process, you're going to get the more driving arc, more penetration, less cleaning action. So all the normal gas tungsten arc settings, pulse AC, pulse DC, AC hot start, AC wave balance, AC frequency, slope up, slope down, there's your answer. 2-stroke, 4-stroke, or trigger lock, whatever you want to call it. Really handy, by the way. I did a project with, once your neighbors find out you can weld, you guys probably all know this. And I had one of our smaller inverter TIG machines with me. I go and set this, he said, I want to weld this aluminum structure together to haul tubers with my pontoon boat. So needless to say, this thing was huge, and we get it up on a bench, and you're trying to use a foot pedal and weld up like this, you just can't do it. So you put it in that trigger mode, and you hit the trigger lock, and you just tap the switch, and you just use your travel speed to keep up with the heat input, right? Pretty slick. Hot start for shielded metal arc, arc force for SMAW, and then there's 60 memory settings in that storage points in the machine, if you had to go that way. And that guy looks pretty happy. So here's an example of our frequency from 20 hertz to 200 hertz. So there's 20 hertz, wider arc. There's 200 hertz, and it basically focuses it down. I wish they had a little more filter on that light, but there's 10 to 150. Oh, on this one. Waveform balance adjusted from 10 to 90%. Traditional machines are like a 50-50 deal. But if I set my balance greater than 75% on this machine, I will keep a pointed electrode, tungsten electrode, on AC with this machine. And I can take that arc and I can focus it down into a joint. And one of my favorite demos to do is on 1/4-inch material, aluminum, put an 1/8-inch bead on that material, and it just makes it look sweeter than all get out. And you can show, you can literally show a student how to do that. And it takes practice, obviously, beyond there, but it's quite amazing. Of course, there's the illustration, max cleaning and max penetration. There's our new TIG Torch Line. We've got 200, 400 all the way down to 150 amp, air-cooled and water-cooled. Foot controls, thumb controls, you name it. Typically, schools are always, foot pedals and standard TIG torches. So, basically it for the HeliArc options. Then we have cutting solutions. This is probably my favorite one, and I only really have one slide on it, on this one. Our Purox Elite torches, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with Purox, but it's a big torch in Minnesota. We sell quite a few of them. Smith is actually our biggest competitor in Minnesota when we get out there. Victor's in there pretty strong, but we really compete against Smith, being that they're in South Dakota, used to be in Minneapolis. So, patented swirl injector mixer design. This is a new torch. ESAB is the global center of excellence in Florence, South Carolina for fuel gas torches, for all of our cutting torches, heating heads, and so on. That product is made here and it's shipped across the globe. So, US made product, it's a wonderful thing. Patented regulator burnout protection, safety in the shop when the students they're learning. They get their hot cylinder from outside, because maybe that's where you store it. Everybody's different. And they get grease or something on the regulator. We've all heard the stories of blowing up regulators. And we have a burnout protection built into our regulators in case that is overlooked. That explosion will not escape from the regulator. And that's probably one of my favorite things to do is go out and do an actual torch safety training with schools, with everybody, with all the industry that's out there. And the nice thing is when you draw on an ESAB rep to come in and do one of these safety presentations, you could probably tell the student till you're blue in the face. It's like me talking to, my dad talking to me and telling me what to do. And then finally, somebody else tells me, no, you got to do it this way. And I'm like, dang it, my dad always said that too. Okay, I better start doing it this way. So it really works like that. And it's amazing how it works. So definitely draw on your ESAB representatives. At least I encourage you to, because I'm going to encourage our representatives to get out to the education community. Full line of cutting torches and regulators. We have a lifetime warranty on all these torches and regulators. Nobody else has a lifetime warranty on regulators. So you blow out the diaphragm, I fix it. This is that kind of tough to see here. We have a really nice display in the booth. Again, I encourage everybody to go look at the booth. This is what we're talking about with the swirl injector. What does this do? This is revolutionary, really, in the torch industry. Nobody's doing this today. This is our oxygen, cutting oxygen coming into the top here. This is preheat fuel gas coming in down here. Preheat oxygen coming in here. We feed it into this swirl injector design, and we feed that oxygen in, and it creates a Venturi effect in here, and it starts to draw the fuel gas. What this does is it allows us to use one torch for all your fuel gases. We're going to switch out tips, of course, go with a different nozzle cutting tip to run propane or natural gas or propylene, or we'll go to an acetylene tip to run acetylene. So this, I can literally take my propane or propylene, whichever one of those fluffy gases, and turn that down to about a half PSI working pressure. And I can light this torch up with a 1/2-inch tip and cut 2-inch thick material with it. I can actually draw enough heat to preheat that material and mix the gases and cut with it. When I put an acetylene tip in there, because an acetylene tip is designed to restrict flow to get the thickness of cut that you want to do, you want to perform. When I put the acetylene tip in there, this thing acts like a mixer, and it doesn't create a vacuum. It's ingenious, and our engineers in South Carolina developed this. It's awesome. It makes it extremely difficult to flash the torch back. I could literally, we had a guy, the engineer, we called him the flame spanker, so it's a good story. He would sit there and literally try to flash that torch back and burn the head out. Just couldn't do it. It's extremely difficult. So, a safe option for Oxy Fuel Cutting for your shop. This is basically what a combination outfit looks like. And then we have straight torches and so on. Then we have our plasma cutting equipment, easy to use, portable cutting solutions, common consumables amongst the 5 different machines. So if you start down on the low end to try to get something in the shop to cut some 3/8 material, this thing right here uses the same electrode that this big monster machine uses. So you don't have to stock as many parts. So you'll be all the way from 3/8 all the way up to 1.5-inch cutting capacity. Sweet machines. Multi-voltage capabilities amongst them. And then easy change out if you wanted to go to, maybe you get a budget to invest into some cutting system. We have a neat little oxbow machine, or a crossbow machine, sitting in our booth right now that's perfect for the education community, price point wise and so on. Come by and take a look at that thing. It's amazing. Of course, we have a 100% guarantee, 100 days, no risk buying, 3-year parts and labor warranty. If you ever wanted to see something from us, we have these systems called PDQs. We pay the shipping in, we pay the shipping out, no fuss, no muss, no hassle, no risk, no cost. and you get to look at a machine, you get to try it out, and then we just ask that hopefully in the end you like it, and we just get on your bid list, and we go from there. And then we have a great relationship. Well, we'd have one anyways, but it doesn't matter. So equipment-wise, any questions? Try to buzz through it quick because I know there's a lot of stuff. So some setup examples. These are things that ESAB does. When we go out into the field and we start working with these schools, we develop these presentations so that our instructors can use them to maybe use them in front of their students. For instance, this one school wanted to understand how do I want to teach my students how to set up their machines and so on and so forth. Well, they have a Warrior in there, just one machine in there, but so what we did, we said, okay, we'll run ESAB Arista Rod 1250 in the short arc process on 16 gauge cold rolled steel. We wrote a procedure. And look at this. I'm set up on MIG, and my inductance is at 0. So I said 0 here. And then you got spray arc for 3/8, and you can adjust the machine wire feed and voltage to get up to your spray arc transfer. Switch over your gas. Same thing for a horizontal fillet on some 10 gauge and 1/4 inch with 045 wire. Then we go into 710X, our dual shield wire, which I'll get into some comments about that. 045 vertical up, and then a horizontal fillet with 3/8. Then I've got my 710X XM with 052 wire. And then here we go, core shield 8. Notice I had the knob now turned down to the suitcase setting. Because I'm going to run my core shield 8 is a self-shielded flux core wire. I'm going to run it on a suitcase and basically set up the settings accordingly. So you can literally sit in a classroom with a student, put this up on a presentation and show them this is what you're going to do. Now go out in the shop and do it. Maybe add some notes or maybe a picture of the joint design in there. It's a neat little thing to use. Stick electrode. Now we're pointed towards stick. We're running 7018. And we're saying give it a little bit of arc force. 125 amps, and then we say vary your arc force. What does it do? Let's learn about this. Our SureWeld 10P Plus, 6010. It's 5 better than 5P. I'm sorry, I have to do that. That's same thing, vertical up weave, so on and so forth. SureWeld 6013. So, air carbon arc gouging, where do you set that now? That's one of the toughest processes for a student to really grasp and understand. But they'll love it once they start playing around with it and just stand clear. But we've got our 1/4 inch carbon arc rod, 36, we set it by voltage. We use constant voltage for our carbon arc gouging process. 36 to 49 volts is the setting, 4 to 5 inch electrode extension outside of the holder, and show them how to do it. Of course, this gives you time to focus on technique, right? Gives you more time to do that instead of playing and fiddling around with a machine. So now what I'd like to do is go over some of those filler metals that I talked about, because these, obviously, equipment is one part of it, and I know you're not all going to have my equipment in there, number one. If you do have my equipment, thank you. If you want to see my equipment, I'd love to show it to you. However, filler metals are one of the other items that you can use as a tool to help in training the student, and it helps. Again, helps you put the focus on process and variables in that process. So, dual shield 710X and 710XM, CO2 wire. That one's a mixed gas wire. Dual shield 7X wire, this X series, we developed this again because we have a problem in the industry right now with a lack of people that are getting out there to actually weld. A lot of people don't want to get dirty. They don't want to be involved in it. They want to play video games. So better, faster, easier, straight progression, vertical up welding with a flat to slightly convex bead profile. I'm serious. 1/16 diameter wire I could point it in the joint, and I could push it straight uphill and have a beautifully flat bead. So what would that do for you? I mean, okay, first of all, we kind of think, well, it takes away technique and skill. And well, let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it, now I can help that student focus on that travel speed. They can pay attention to travel, because now they're not doing this. They're not doing this little weave thing or a little whip thing. I can actually carry a nice sized puddle out of position with that wire as well. Be amazed. You think that it would just spill out and fall all over the floor. But you would be amazed with how much molten weld puddle you can pull out of position with this wire. Excellent for stringer passes in all positions. It's the correct way to make a multi-pass weld or a large fillet stringer pass. Again, vertical up with 1/16 diameter wire. It allows you to focus on the basics of the process with work angle, travel speed, and torch angle. It also builds the confidence in the student, because they're going to make that weld and they're going to say, oh, wow, I'm really close. And you say, okay, do it again. I remember that a million times. Handed my X block to my teacher in high school. Oh, fill it out. You're not even close. Core Shield 8, self-shielded flux core wire. This is another product that we've used as a company to help job sites qualify their welders on the job. We can literally, we took the success rate of some of these job sites. We've taken them from maybe a 10% success rate of guys passing their tests to 75% success rates. It's amazing. It's so simple to use. It feels like a 7018 when you're welding with it. There's only one thing that kind of stands out different with this wire, is you have to actually drag it uphill, and you can use like a little weave function with it. It's quite amazing though, the way this bead lays out and the way the material stays up in the joint.
So you drag it over?
You drag it uphill. It's something else. And it's a slight, so you're feeling like almost like you're straight in, you know, because you get that feeling, you're like, but it's a slight drag uphill. It's interesting. Reduces time and practice it takes to pre-qualify welders. The operators will pass their weld tests with more confidence with this wire. It is amazing. It's literally something you have to try. See it to believe it. We like to call it the wow factor. That's what ESAB ends up doing with our stuff. Atom Arc Acclaim. I'm sure all of you are probably familiar with Atom Arc 7018. It's been around in the industry for years. We developed a new product called Atom Arc Acclaim. It's out of position, well, all position, of course, 7018. Everybody knows 7018 is out of position. But we made some improvements here where we've gathered an excellent puddle control for easier use out of position. I can carry a much larger puddle out of position with this Acclaim product. A lot of the guys that are running standard Atom Arc, you may not get them to run the Acclaim if you're doing like a boiler shop training or something like that. But new welders, this is the way to go. It's excellent for stringer passes and weaving in all positions. You can literally take this Acclaim, and just like the X-wire, is take that Acclaim and point it in the joint and push it uphill. You'll get a convex bead, but you'll get a nice bead and you'll get some good penetration. It's pretty amazing. It's got a great arc initiation, so it makes it easier for that student to get the arc started. They're not cussing and swearing because they can't get that thing started. We call it stuck welding instead of stick welding. And there's extremely low spatter emissions. So, I mean, there's literally almost no cleanup when you're done welding. It's amazing. And again, you can focus on your work angle, your travel speed, and the electrode angle in the joint. You can help that operator pay attention to those three things rather than worrying about all the other stuff. This one, our SureWeld 10P Plus, is probably one of our best kept secrets at ESAB because, quite frankly, our competitor has a stronghold on the market and they make a good product. Well, we make a very good product as well. And one of the things that with this 10P Plus that a lot of people don't realize is you literally, normally 60-10, you want to long arc it a little bit, right? You want to pull back on the electrode a little bit, get about a 1/4 inch standoff sometimes to create enough heat to burn out some extra slag or something. Well, what happens with this product is it runs like our atom arc, in which we create a meniscus in that electrode, and I couldn't find a picture to slap up here. Should have dug into Dwight back here to find one, but it actually creates like a dish or a recess from the rod out in the flux. So you get that dish, and it creates a natural standoff. And when you're welding and you're running a vertical up hot pass, you just literally set the rod on the material and just work the puddle. You'll get virtually no spatter with this stuff. It's amazing. It is amazing running electrode. And a lot of people don't realize it because they'll get it and they'll test it, and they run it like the competition, and it doesn't run like the competitions. It runs like ESAB. So it's one of those things. You want to bring somebody in to get them, hey, show me how to, let's do this the right way. You know, let's take a look at this and try out this product. It also helps you with your work angle, travel speed, and electrode angle. I mean, I keep using that, but it keeps you focused on the basic techniques. Then we have our Arista Rod. This is it's not a bare wire. It's just not copper coated. There's a copper coating on it. It's not copper coated. There is a coating on it. However, you can't really see what it is. Little to no spatter production. It runs extremely smooth on straight CO2 all the way up to your mixed gases. Excellent arc control for short circuit, spray arc transfer. And of course, little to no spatter to clean up. Of course, we had all the settings for it. And last but not least, we have all these educational discounts on all those products. The other thing I want to show you is our website. So first of all, stop by our booth. I forgot that. Go back. So on our website, we've got some neat items in here. Number one, if you come into the website and you're at the home portion of it, you can click on Education, and you can go into the ESAB University. And it's a nice little tool here where you can pull up our all-state welding handbook that'll give you a lot of specific directions on applications where maybe you have a cast iron job that you need to repair some work on. And you can guide your student maybe towards this to say, hey, you know, go in there and look into it. There's a procedure for it, and ESAB has it. You want to research it first before you do it, but for example, it opens up this nice book. Where'd my cast iron go? There it is. I can click on this cast iron tab, and then I can grab one of these products and take a look at it. So continuous nickel iron electrode for cast iron. So this is a wire. It's a metal cord wire. And usually it gives you some parameters. Yep, procedures for best results, set wire amperage, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty slick little setup. So that's the ESA or the All-State Handbook. That's our maintenance and repair alloy line that we actually ship out of South Carolina. Then we have our Arc Welding Technology course. I know everybody has their book selections and how they do things, but this is another resource that you could maybe rely on. Number one, you can click on the course. Is it working? Yeah, it must not be working. There we go. So you can get into all your different, just basics of welding is really what it is. So it gives you a good basic understanding. The student can go through each section, and then they can go to a test. And I would suggest to maybe, don't let them take the test multiple times, but you could probably print this off, or you can request hard copies from ESAB, and we can get them to you as well. But you would take this test, and it'll actually grade itself once you're done. only had a 20% on that one. So, and they got the wrong answers set up in there on purpose, of course. So there's the Welding Technology course. My filler metal handbook is in here. Oh, I've got a better one than that. I'll show you that one. We have the MIG Welding Handbook. And these are paper copy as well, hard copy. So I can get you a little hard copy that we print as well. It's simply as ordering up, having your ESAB person order it up for you. This one, you can break it down by all the different processes and all the way down to equipment and conditions and so on and so forth. Then we have an Oxy Fuel Cutting Handbook. This book is really nice. It's about that thick, like the hard copy is. We'll go through the entire process, but it talks about our lost art, welding cast iron with Oxy Fuel, you know, brazing. And I remember my instructor in high school put me on Oxy Fuel for 6 weeks, and I about lost my mind. Then we have a submerged arc welding handbook as well. So a lot of neat tools in the ESAB University. We also have some cost-saving tools that you could utilize if, I don't know if you ever needed to do anything, to maybe show how you could save some money for maybe a customer, or, you know, if you're doing some work during the summer type of thing. Or show your students how to do this, because they could be getting into jobs like that. And then, of course, there's an energy savings calculator that's real simple to go through. Whoops. The other one we have is, if you're ever looking for literature, we have a link here to request literature. The nice thing that we've done is we've gone to all electronic copies of our different pieces of literature. And the nice thing about this is this, for instance, this is a Cutting Solutions catalog. If you have any of our equipment, it'll have part numbers for all the torches and stuff in there, or plasma cutters. It'll have all the part numbers for that. So you're not wasting your time trying to dig through and find things. It's right there. You can actually open it up on the web. Then there's the Filler Metal Data Handbook. Oh, shoot, you got to enter information, of course. But what I do is I download it and save it to my desktop. And I can open it up. This is a really nice tool. Adobe has a neat feature, a search feature, for those of you that aren't familiar. I can type in E7018, hit enter, and there's 7018. Does a search. So now this is what my Filler Metal Handbook looks like. We have a hard copy of this as well. And I can literally go through this and check out all my different parameters, all my mechanical properties, part numbers. I could keep scanning through, and it'll take me through every 7018 that's in my catalog. So, another nice tool from that's not going to work. I can go to my ASTM section in the back of the book, where I can literally look up an ASTM specification. So let's say it's A514. What class or grade? It handles all grades. It tells me my preheat temperature to run at, and then it'll also tell me which products I can use with shielded metal arc. I can run my Atom Arc T. Gas metal arc, I can run spool arc 120, and so on and so forth. Flux cord wire, submerged arc wire. So you can really help narrow down what products to use in what applications. And then the last item that that comes in handy, especially for projects. I know some schools will do, like we did projects. We did like a senior project where we had to lay out this stuff. And I remember not having enough stick-alike. We were saving all the 3-inch stubs, and we had to reuse all the stubs. And my instructor would literally make us do that because his budget ran out, you know. And so, hey, you do what you got to do to make things work, right? So I'll tell you what, I learned how to restrike real easy. It's something else. But here's a good example of what you can utilize this book for. Is I have an electrode or welding wire consumption chart. If I got to make a 1/4-inch fillet weld, 1/4-inch fillet weld weighs 0.106 pounds per foot. But if I'm going to use stick, it's going to require 0.171 pounds per foot. So if I need to make, this always amazes a lot of people too, because I'll get a call from a customer. I got 1,000 feet of 1/4-inch weld. I'm going to need like 3 pallets of wire. Okay, 1,000 feet of 1/4-inch, so 1,000 times wire, 0.112, pardon me. Yeah, like a spool. Yeah. It's literally maybe 3 spools of wire. You know, and this guy would have gone and bought 3 pallets because he thought he needed all that wire. So it's quite amazing what you run into out in the field. But, you know, you can use this with a student to say, hey, so how much weld metal do you think you need with that? You know, and you could maybe use it as an exercise. I'm not sure, just a thought, an idea. So with that in mind, you know, I hope I was able to give you guys an understanding of what we can do. I know I did a lot of product information on this, but you know, I think all of us always want to try to push our product as well, any one of us manufacturers. But I think with ESAB, what you'll see is number one, is get that ESAB person into your facility, and you know, put them to work for you. They want to work for you. They want to do things for you, and that's what we want to do. And I appreciate it. So thank you for your time today, and I hope everybody enjoys the show. And please stop by the booth because we can show you some really neat things with the products that I talked about, and that they're all set up at the booth. So thank you.